Welcome back to another Maestro's Vibe. On this vibe, we're going to be talking about asynchronous learning with amazing educators from Ke'au Elementary School. We have Miss Asia Harmon and Miss Daphna Erin Holt. This is Karina Hernandez.
And I'm Kev on the ones and twos, and I'm with...
Aloha, this is Juan, Jefe Espinal. Honored to be back here with more esteemed guests. Welcome to our show. Welcome to my Astros Vibe. Daphna and Asia. Woo! Welcome. How are you? And if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit to our audience. Maybe Asia, would you like to go first?
Sure, I'm doing great. It's a Sunday morning. I'm so glad I woke up in time. I am a teacher at Ke'au Elementary. I just started this year, and so much has happened since, joining this school ohana. So it's been quite a journey. Excited to speak with you guys today. Our role, both Daphna and I, we teach asynchronously. So we have a separate program at Ke'au Elementary. I teach 5th grade social studies there.
I'm Daphna Ehrenholt. My role has changed a lot. I started as a 5th grade teacher there at Ke'au. First I was middle school at Ke'au on the Kona side, so yay Hawks. And then, this year I've been a 5th grade teacher, an interventionist, an ACELS coordinator, and now I'm a 1st grade asynchronous teacher, and I'm helping to run the A team.
Yeah, it was really junky because we were so excited to work together. We've been working together since the summer and planning super exciting things for our kids. And then we both got taken out of that role that we had as part of the 5th grade team.
Wow. And now, Daphna, you mentioned the A team. What's being part of the A team? What's that?
So our A team, it was first the AO team, which was asynchronous only, where it was me and 2 other teacher interventionists, and we were kind of running the show. And then when we moved away from ACELS, it became the A team, which is the asynchronous team. And there are about 20 teachers and counselors, and we have admin involved and coaches and just, everyone we can to do this asynchronous learning and get a good curriculum out for people. So it's a lot.
That's a word I've heard a lot. Asynchronous. Can you define that specifically for just so we all get an idea of what we're really talking about here?
Learning is where you are sitting with an educator, with a teacher, and your students are working with you. So we're all together at the same time. And in this pandemic environment, we are working, basically, you have a teacher who might be in a Zoom lesson, and you have a group of students who are following along. Asynchronous is the opposite. Asynchronous is we are working as a single teacher who creates curriculum, records it, and then puts it out for our students to follow. And they follow along that. It's self-paced. Their parents can come in and help them along, because the parents sort of become facilitators for the students. And it just becomes a self-paced learning program for our students, created by Asia and I and a bunch of other amazing teachers.
That's really awesome. When I think about the connection that we have here, Daphna and Asia and Karina, we've all been a part or are in the process of being a part of Kia'iaina Kualaloa with Uncle Mehalani Pai and Malia Kipapa, and that's where I first met Daphna when she was at Kalakahe Intermediate, and I knew she was going to be transitioning to teach 5th grade at Ke'au. And then this pandemic happens and your role switches, and I'm interested in learning more about how it has transitioned, right? But we still keep that place-based learning at the forefront, because I know that ACELS was the opposite of that. But what I've heard from your program is that the asynchronous learning is trying to elevate that a bit more.
So personally, for me, I'm really challenge oriented, and this year's been definitely a challenge. So I was at Ke'au Elementary before. I've done student teaching there 6 years ago, but just before this year, I was at Kyokaha Elementary, and at Kyokaha Elementary, I taught sixth grade. But at Kia'ao, they were looking for teachers who are open to this project-based learning, and I'm all for that. So at Kyokaha, I had wonderful opportunities to use Reading Wonders and collaborate with community partners to build upon those lessons and integrate subjects as much as possible. But at Kia'ao, I learned that they were creating their own curriculum, and I was all in. I was hired to come aboard the upcoming year as a fifth grade homeroom teacher for inclusion before COVID-19 hit. And as our grade level had regular meetings during the summer to plan for those possible changes as needed, when we got closer to the year, things just kept changing and more drastically than any of us could have expected, really. So the extent to what we were able to do with our students was becoming more and more limited. Our roles began to change too, and instead of an inclusion teacher for a homeroom class, I then became a virtual learning teacher and jumped in with Daphna and her crew, to help out with that Acellus only program. We were able to do, social emotional learning check-ins with the students. We offered that. It wasn't required to them because they were on an asynchronous program, but we did want to make sure that we are offering that to them. So when they started the year, we had two groups of students. They either were able to choose that blended learning option, so that when they were, it was safe to return to school, they would be on a modified schedule to come back physically. And then on the second hand, we had our 100% distance learning students, like Daphna said, the asynchronous learners. And so for me, my position was kind of split. I was teaching 1 to 2 subjects for the blended learning students classes synchronously. So I was meeting with each class once a week for an hour. And then they had work to do aside from that before they met me again. But on the asynchronous side, they had to do everything on their own. And then they were just, offered a chance to interact with their classmates. So that's what we did Q1. Now, a few days before Q2 began, I got the call that we'd be switching roles again. So Acellus was being removed from our elementary schools, and the virtual learning teachers that we were doing those check-ins with could no longer teach, what we had planned for those blended learning students, literally days before we were starting up again. So that was a huge bump in the road. And, everything I had planned for social studies was put to the side, because now it was easier for those homeroom teachers to use what they had from previous years, or, use a supplemental program, since they were now expected to teach everything, language, arts, reading, science, and social studies themselves. So that was a big change for us. But our distance learning students, our asynchronous crew, they needed us. Yeah, they needed more teachers. So we gained 2 more teachers for each grade level. We have about 3 teachers per grade level now, creating content for these kids who are working asynchronously. And that became the launch of our asynchronous learning program. And it was in the works to begin in November. Our 5th grade students, they were working asynchronously on Google Classroom. And I think our lower elementary, are we using Google Classroom or Seesaw, Daphna?
Both. We're using both.
Yeah, so it took a lot for us to transition. So all of our curriculum kind of had to slow down. We had to pump the brakes a little bit, just to kind of help our children navigate through all of these new learning management systems.
Yeah. And also, I have a couple of questions. So my understanding, right, Acellus is going to be taken away because, as Kev mentioned, it's a bit problematic. How was it that your school, if you're able to share, that they decided to, because the whole DOE is still using Acellus. I have my own students who are full distance learning on Acellus, doing their courses, and it will stay until the end of the school year. So I'm wondering what was the feelings, what was the discussion around it to then say, okay, we've been using this for a quarter, we're going to start a new quarter, forget this program? Or was it like that? What was the conversation surrounding that change?
Oh my God. It was,
Good question.
yeah, So our we also switched principals.
Easy.
So halfway through all of this, we're changing again. Basically, at the end of quarter one, our principal at the time, Janice Blaber, she was just like, you know what? We're going to switch over. This isn't going to work out. She saw that it would be problematic. Now, when we first started with Acellus, it was that I believe that from what I understand, the district gave us two options. One was Acellus, which was completely asynchronous, and then there was another one from a different university that required some teacher help, and it wasn't fully asynchronous. And so Principal Blaber had thought, I'm led to believe that if we do an asynchronous program, we will be able to keep our students enrolled, because there is a huge fear of losing a lot of students to homeschooling right now, and that means that affects our budget. So when we started to realize how problematic Acellus was, Janice was just like, you know what? We're going to get rid of it, and you're going to do your own thing. And it was scary. I mean, we looked at the amount of work we would have to do as individual teachers, and we all kind of freaked out. It was, here is another change for us as teachers. Here's a huge change for our students, and then another big change for our parents. And now we are designing our own curriculum, which we're kind of, some of our veteran teachers who are on the A team, they're kind of used to that. Like, we've been challenged in previous years to design our own curriculum that is more INA-based, that is more meant for our students. It's not just stuff from the continent. It's stuff that we're creating. And then how do we translate that stuff into something for our asynchronous students? And that's been that's the hardest challenge of all of this, is how do we take something that is standards-based, going to help our students advance, that is meant for our students. How are we going to do all of these things asynchronously? And I don't know if we have the answer for that yet. We're just a team of teachers who are trying to keep moving everything forward. And trying. Like, that's the key word, is we are always working towards what is best for our students. And it takes hours upon hours upon hours of work. We are working through weekends. We are working past our contracted hours because we have to do what's best for our kids first.
Yeah, and luckily I was able to take my social studies plan out of that trash and use it for our asynchronous learning students. But now I had to look at it in a completely different way. I still had that opportunity to teach social studies with that added Hawaiian culture lens for me to bring that sense of belonging and relevance to our students with the content that they have to learn in 5th grade. So, creating our own curriculum definitely has those perks that we are able to wiggle through. But yeah, like Daphne said, we've been working tirelessly to record and post content into Google Classroom, score assignments, provide personalized feedback for those students individually, and we're a team, but we share our students. And so, we had to stay consistent, in how we organize these Google Classrooms, because we have to create everything on Google Classroom and post it. And, there's so many different ways you could do that in Google Classroom. There's not a set format, aside from also attending so many different faculty and staff meetings online. So we're working day and late into those nights without, trying to seem like that crazy teacher. But in reality, we're all those crazy teachers. We're trying to continue the work that needs to, desperately get done. And that's our struggle for the teachers. Someone told me this week, she said, I can see now more than ever that teachers are working harder and kids are learning less. And I was like, oh, that sounds really bad.
Right in the heart. That's
from that outside perspective, it might look like that and sometimes feel that way. But, if we have that teacher efficacy, I believe that the kids are learning so much more. They're learning how to wake up at a decent time to take care of their kuleana, their responsibilities, at home and for school. They're discovering the importance of routine for themselves, setting a schedule
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that they find time to eat lunch, have breakfast, take breaks.
Yep.
They're learning how to communicate with their families and teachers. And let's face it, these kids now have the ability to shut us down, like literally just close the computers, right? And we can't get to them. And that's the reality that we're
Yes.
facing with.
No, that's so true. And I think you bring up a good point. Like in this new structure of teaching, right? Not only are we looking at like restructuring the way we deliver content to students, but we're also trying to change mind states, right? Like with parents, because so many things of the education system are harnessed around grades, right? And like, what grade are you getting here? And like, we've drilled that in with standardized testing, that grades are really important. And right now, like, grades aren't important. I think what you're saying is more important, that personalized individual feedback. And when we're able to do that, that's when the learning happens. But that's hard to quantify, right? And because it's hard to quantify, that's when outsiders' perspectives might feel that way that you're saying, even though, teaching isn't just about the mind, but it's also about the heart, the spirit. So those things are hard to quantify.
It's art, Kevin. It's art. And I think you teachers over there are reclaiming your artistry. You are artists up there, and I respect you for that, because sometimes you will falter, sometimes you will succeed. I would like to ask, what is the most beautiful form of art you've seen created through this time that you've been able to be more of a creator, an agent of change of sorts?
I think the most beautiful thing I've seen so far is the connection that my students have with their parents right now. They are
Mm.
the I will talk on the phone to parents and talk them through how to do this, and then I'll see, like, I'll do the follow-up, and all of a sudden the parents and the students are talking more, and there's more of a family connection. So even though we're not, like, I can't be in the room, but I have these parents who are by proxy their kids' teacher now, and the parents are feeling more confident about what they're doing. And that to me is just the most beautiful thing in the world, because we have parents who feel more empowered about what they're doing with their kids at home. And they've built their schedule, they have a routine going in place now, and it's building up their confidence, because so many times parents are like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And I just reflect of, neither do teachers sometimes. Like, we're constantly
Yeah.
the imposter syndrome is real, and I'm finding out the older I get, the more that's true for every single person. We all are just kind of floating in space. And so when parents get frustrated and they reach out to us and we can help them through it, that to me is the most beautiful thing I ever get to see. Because all of a sudden you have parents who feel comfortable with doing their job as a parent, and we have kids who feel better because now their parents are empowered to just, to do more. And that to me is just, it's the most beautiful piece of art you could ever imagine, is watching a parent light up, realizing that they can make their kid light up just the same.
I agree, Daphna. They're invested now.
Yeah.
They need to be, in order for their child to succeed. And it's not easy, for the kids or the parents. And so, we're also seeing like that value of that relationship building and friendships, something that they really truly miss and need, that they were getting in physical, school setting, but now they really need it somewhere else. So the parents are working so hard to try to, create this opportunity for the kids to continue learning. And for us, we have to make those assignments valuable to them. And so, creating assignments and activities that the parents can get involved, and then it happens and the kids turn it in and their parents are being interviewed, and so much valuable information. It's exciting. It's like so rewarding to see that, you know, the parents are there and the parents are willing to work with the child and, you know, get involved. So that's a really exciting thing, because, you know, we're struggling with the tools to navigate, you know, through Google Classroom and submitting assignments, but there's still progress happening here. We have to recognize that and celebrate that, you know. So a friend of ours, a coworker also, she said, our ship might be moving very slowly, but it's not sinking. Yeah, we got to remember that. So this type of program truly needs time to work out kinks, because unlike normal school, we don't have those opportunities to have these free flowing conversations and chats with our students on how to do these things. Everything has to be broken down, recorded, posted, you know, and our kids have to see it in order to learn and demonstrate their learning. So it's like our kids are working harder more than ever, and they're forced to be these self-directed learners that we wanted them to be, you know, but it's now or never kind of thing, you know. It's not like, oh, you know, don't worry, we're working on it. It's like, you got to get this done because the assignment's coming up, you know, and that's their challenge. You know, we still have these high expectations for them, even under all of these different circumstances, and they're trying their best.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of myself when I was going through my master's program, which was online, right? I was so lucky. I was lucky that I did my bachelor's in person, like, because online learning to me was, I didn't want it. And I remember when I signed up for this program, my first year I flunked. And this is me as a teacher who has, you know, a planner and is time management and wants to do her best and is paying money for this, you know. It was so hard. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, these students are going through that. They've learned to be in a classroom, and now boom.
It's so intimate to jump in and have a class with kids and parents. Like, that is such an intimate thing. And
Yeah,
you just really see how much they work.
yeah, you're not only working with the child. You may be only able to see the child, but you know the child's parent is right here, you know, or they're doing the dishes and they can hear everything you're saying to them. They can hear everything that the child is saying. So
And it's kind of even weirder for recordings, because then parents can go back in and be like, did they really say that? So when you're doing the recordings, you're always like, there's always that thought in your mind of, I need to follow what I planned out to record. I can't go off track. I can't make a comment to try to do a learning moment in it, because the parent might not be able to expand on that.
yeah.
And that's really hard for me, because I taught science at a middle school level, and now I have to bring it down to a first grade level, and I miss going on tangents. Like, I miss that so much, and I can't do that on a video about, like, light is a source of energy you can see. I can't go beyond that anymore, and it's really that's the biggest challenge for me right now, is making sure that I'm giving them exactly what they need and not giving them something more that would need a bigger explanation.
Yeah, because you know that our you know, just children's attention span is shorter, you know, so we have to keep it short and engaging. And we can't go off topic too much, or else they're gonna get confused. Like, wait, do I think about that or do I think about this? You know, so it's so much work for us to create that content that is the most valuable at that moment. We need the most essential, you know, information that's going to be put out to them. So, but I wanted to comment on what Karina was saying about, you know, just
oh yeah, go ahead.
Just being as an adult having to maybe do online school. You know, we think about, you know, if we're having trouble with our internet, we go and we look for a phone number to call, right? And we're like, you know, and they're like, you can go to online for all of your answers and of your questions. But no, we want to talk to a real person. We need to figure it out, you know? So it's like, this really forces everyone, you know, everyone involved to really read all directions, follow all the steps, because it's hard to access the contact for us, you know, if it's 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday and the parents are trying to help the kids, and they're emailing us, for help. But we're humans too. We have to focus on our work-life balance. So it's a struggle trying to offer this flexibility in this asynchronous program, but everybody has to set some boundaries.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Setting some boundaries for ourselves as educators is so important when we're thinking about sense of total well-being, right? It's something that we all have a hard time with, especially in this moment, right? It's like work, 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 and like trying to put in that time, and at the same time, like how are we working on ourselves? And that's why I'm so grateful for this break that's upcoming, right? It's going to be nice to kind of get re-energized and just refresh, hit the refresh button. Um, as we continue down this road, you all said something earlier that really stood out to me, because Ashley Oyama, an educator that we just had on, was talking about how she feels like kids are being more self-directed in this moment in time, right? And that's so interesting to me how, yes, there's some things that we can't quantify, like I was mentioning earlier, but there's other things that are just happening that are truly magic. And I just really am so happy to have both of you share the story. I'm wondering if you all have any advice for our listeners moving forward, um, especially if anyone's trying to get, an asynchronous program going on at their school.
It's going to take a lot more time than you thought it would. Um, just be prepared for like using all of your extra time into this. Recording something for 10 minutes takes about 2 hours to prepare for. So that, or more really. And then grading, if you have 60 kids that you're grading for, 5 subjects, you need to spend 2 minutes for each assignment to give good feedback at least and grade it properly. It's time consuming, but my advice would be, it's okay if it fails. Nobody knows what we're doing. Like, nobody on this planet has any idea what's going to happen next. And as long as you're continuing to try to get better, then you're not going to fail the system, and you're not going to fail your students, because there are no directions right now. We're making it up as we go along. So it's okay if it's wrong the first couple of times. You'll get it right.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Daphna on that. It's definitely trial and error for us, and it's not an easy feat. But as long as we can see that there's some progress for those students, of course we're gonna have those struggling students that we're still trying to meet with. We're still trying to find ways to reach them, because we still have those people who are having trouble with connectivity and availability, with their schedules. So there's definitely still lots of kinks to work out. But, as long as we continue to try to move forward and not give up on our programs so easily, so quickly, we just have to know that it's a process.
That's great advice. Thank you. My students, high schoolers, have been asking, so if we're not going to have a Acellus next year, what are we going to have? And that has been left me thinking, like, are we going to create our own asynchronous program the way that your school has done so, or are we going to get another program, right? But we'll see. Just like you said, we don't know what's going to happen. But until then, we just have to keep trying, just like we did this season. This is our last episode, and we are so thankful that we had the two of you come and join us and share your mana'o with our listeners. And just thank you for everything that you're doing, for supporting the students, for creating a program, and being working teachers. Like, on the side note, I'm trying to have like my YouTube channel and create videos for my students. But again, content takes time to create it, to think about it, and then deliver it. It's a lot of work.
Everyone's creating right now. Even schools, teachers who have programs, it's not a one and done situation. Everybody has to put in that extra time, because our programs were not meant to be taught asynchronously from home, you know. They're all meant to have
Oh,
these deep conversations for children to learn and, you know, demonstrate what they, you know, how they're going to apply what they're learning to different assignments. But, you know, everybody is going through this right now, you know, not just the schools who are creating their own curriculum. Everyone has to, you know, go with this ebb and flow of what's happening right now. So, you know, power to all teachers, you know, not just us creating our own curriculum, because everyone is creating right now.
Yeah. And in that same vein, I think that we have enough teachers in this state that we could create a common curriculum for ourselves that we could share. And maybe that's something we work on over the summer, where we figure out how to create something that works for our state specifically, because we have Acellus didn't work because it was meant for kids on the continent. Hawaii has to have something INA based, that is culture based, that is relevant to our students, and who better to make it than the people who teach here? Yeah.
Let's do it.
Daphna,
We are
yes,
going to put it on this summer. Let's do it, Daphna. I am with you.
yes.
I'm excited for that. I think that anytime when we're elevating our place, anytime where we are making sure that our students' cultures are visible and are elevated, I think we're doing the work that we need to do, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. And I just hope that when we come out of this pandemic on the other side and we go back into our classrooms, whatever that may look like, I hope we continue to think about how we're doing that, right? Like we're putting so much time in and we're going to have to continue to do that. And I hope we're given the opportunity to put time into things that matter for our kids and are relevant for our kids.
Kevin, that's such a great statement, what you said, you know, to make it relevant. And I was talking to you yesterday, and we're both teaching fifth grade, you know, and just like all of us, Daphne too. And I was like, wait, why haven't I asked Kevin about what he was doing at the beginning of the year? Because this is my first year in fifth grade, right? I was teaching sixth previously. So I thought like, oh, I got a lot to do creating my own stuff. So if I reached out, if there was a way that, you know, we could look at or collaborate with other schools in grade levels, we could see what everyone's doing and we can hui up, bring it together and make it a curriculum like Daphna said, you know. I am working with a teacher, a fifth grade teacher in Mountain View, and you know, she's helped me because she has all the resources. I came into the position without the resources. You know, I had my ideas, and so we're really collaborating. And I'm talking to you know, fifth grade teachers at Kamehameha schools as well. So, you know, if we were given these opportunities somehow to meet with other schools, then we can really create something awesome and place-based. You know, bringing in that like sense of belonging. You know, because those kids need that. They need to know their cultures are just as important.
Part of the HA framework.
do you, it's exactly.
Yeah. Part of the
You're
HA
right.
framework is that we are supposed to have something that represents Hawaii in our classroom. And I don't know why we can't create our own curriculum to do just that, where everything makes sense for the kids who are learning on our islands. Like, we should be able to do that. We should have the opportunity to do that. We should get paid properly to do that too, as HSTA members. Like that, you know, we got to work fairly, but we could do this. We could build something for all of our kids, and they deserve it.
Mention that I think our government, our Hawaiian government, hasn't done a good job of helping our kids. But our teachers continue to persist. Even if we think back to earlier in this wild season, we had Ashley Nika Ito, who developed our Hawaii Distance Learning Forum. And that's trying to hui together teachers from across the entire state, kind of in a similar way that you all are talking about. You're creating content. I think there's a lot of potential here. And just because we failed before doesn't mean we have to fail in the future. We can move forward.
Empowering to know that, you know, we have the power to create this, to make it relevant for the kids, but we also got to take a step back and remember, okay, it's distance learning still. you know, because I had to battle with that. Like, I'm trying to have these deep, connections being made through assignments, but the kids are also struggling because if they're not, watching all those videos, if they're not having these conversations with themselves or their family, it's hard to get that deep learning going. What's been easy for a lot of, assignments for them, oh, Google Forms, multiple choice, easy, and all the teachers can grade it easily. Okay, yeah, they just do that, so is that really deep learning taking place? So it's really finding that bridge to how are we gonna do this deep learning and rich discussions for this place-based education in distance learning.
And before we get going here, Asia, your husband is throwing on an event that I think is open to the whole public. Would you like to speak on that event more, because it really resonates with the place-based learning?
Conference is called Kavaivai no Na Kupuna, Treasures of Our Ancestors. So it's Hawaiian culture-based education for all. So it's a free conference that's going to happen on February 12th. And it's a save the date, so more information will be coming out, but there's going to be a really abundant amount of wonderful speakers, educators in the community, organizations that will speak out and share what they're doing. So this is going to be a wonderful opportunity to attend if you can. So more information coming soon, but definitely save the date, February 12th, Kavaivai no Nakupuna. It is organized by Kamehameha Schools.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Asia. And then one last save the date, folks, is January 8th. If you're an educator on the Big Island and you want to get your voice heard by legislators, we're going to be throwing as an HSTA whole Big Island, Hawaii Island. All the chapters are invited. So that will be January 8th. And if you are interested, check us out on Maestro's Vibe. We'll put up the flyer where you can RSVP. And with that, y'all, this has been another Maestro's Vibe. We are so happy for how this season has come along, and just so proud to have both of you here to be our capstone and our finale. And with that, folks, we will see you next semester for another Maestro's Vibe. Hui ho.